South African news and documentary photographer Santu Mofokeng was laid to rest last week. He'd started his career as a street photographer and then went on to work as an assistant in a dark room, becoming a news photographer. Now, since then, Mofokeng has worked in different projects, at the same time collecting accolades along the way for his craft. Now, this morning we're joined in studio by Ruth Seopedi Motau, who is a documentary photographer. Very good morning to you, Ruth. Thank you so much for making the time to come on the show as we reflect on the great life lived by, of course, the late Santu Mofokeng.
Thank you very much.
I want you to take us back to sort of the first time you had met him or heard of him, and what you had perceived his work to have been and how his work had influenced you and what you later became.
I first met Santu in the early 90s. I think he was working for the New Nation newspaper. And then, but later we interacted more when I met him in I think it was 93. I was working for the then Weekly Mail and Guardian. And then he was doing a research at Wits University. So there was a fund in the US, which was Eugene Smith Fund, giving grants to photographers. It was called the Mother Jones Fund. So I applied for that one, sending a portfolio, and then little did I know that Santu also applied.
Yeah.
And Santu won, and he got it.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. So I said to myself, I need to see Santu.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were just working in Braamfontein, and I called him and said, can I meet you? He says, yes. And then that was the beginning of, you know, mentorship and friendship through photography.
And so when he comes into your life as this mentor and you're developing this fantastic relationship, what are some of the things that you drew from him or learned from him, especially within the work that both of you were doing?
When you meet Santu, he will ask you, bring your negatives. Will you bring your negatives? And then he looked at also my portfolio. And the first thing that he asked was, looking at my negatives, was, what is this? And I think I froze.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if I said anything. But, you know, we continued, we spoke, and he showed me some of his work. And all I can remember also was, I don't know how I got back to the office.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know, he like torn me apart with my work.
Oh, my goodness.
And, yeah, and I never wanted to see him. And I never wanted to be a photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at just the journey that you have walked as a photographer, take us back to the dark days and on what some of the challenges that were faced by photographers such as yourself, such as Ndate Santu, and many others who worked under those conditions, especially when we look at the laws that governed and the limitation of movement. And as a photographer, you sort of almost need to move in order to capture stories.
I think looking back at Santu's work, it was more of a documentary stuff. It wasn't news. It wasn't, you know, for mainstream media. And I thought to myself, this is what I really want to do. I don't want to be a news photographer. I didn't want to photograph violence. I'm from Soweto. I'm from Meadowlands. Yeah. And I didn't want. You know, I wanted people to see the other side of black people's lives. So when I looked at Santu's work, I thought, you know, he will document ordinary lives or just, you know, people living but make them extraordinary.
And let's talk about his legacy that he leaves behind. What are some of the ways in which you think he should be best honored, and why is it important to honor these names that are in our history books?
Santu's work is very enormous, and I think honoring him, it's not enough. sometime last year, when I saw Santu, I think it was beginning of the year, I knew that he wasn't well. And then when I saw him, I broke down and I told his wife that, you know, we need to honor Santu. And we did, but it's not enough, you know. I think his images are going to live forever. And then students, especially black children, they should know if they have to do some research about photography, I think Santu's name should be one of those. Books need to be published. I think also photography needs to be, you know, part of the syllabus. Not just, you know, we're looking at kids with their cell phones and then taking pictures, but photography is a medium of expression, and of which I think, yeah, photography should be, or Santu's work should be part of the syllabus. And in that way, I think it's honoring him.
Yeah, you mentioned, just to wrap it up, kids with cell phones, and we're seeing a lot of that, and we're also seeing how popular photography is becoming, especially amongst black youngsters. Any advice for young people who look at photography as a possible career path, who are passionate about it, who just don't know where to start, really?
I think it's good to use a cell phone, but they must know what they want to do with the cell phones or when they take pictures. Not, you know, do a lot of selfies and...
Are you talking to me?
not do a lot of selfies and posting them on social media and whatever. That's a bit dangerous. But, you know, when you want to be the voice of the voiceless, I think you can use, you know, your camera and do that.
So it's important to also identify how it is you would like to influence the world around you through photography.
Yes, I think it is very important, you know. I mean, look at Santu's work. It was shot in black and white, you know. I also did the same thing, going to the township. And when you photograph with without flash, people don't see you. You don't exist. But you come back with excellent and great images.
All right, Ruth, that's where we'll have to leave it for today. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing the thoughts and insights that you have about the late Santu.
Thank you very much.
I was Ruth Seopedi Motau speaking to us about the late Santu Mofokeng, who's contributed in shaping her career as a photographer, and of course many, many others. We're going to take a quick break for now. Do stay with us. This is Morning Live.